How's it going, everyone? My name is Nick Clement with Access 4 and welcome to MSPland. In this episode, we delve into the world of sales with David Rose, the head of sales at efex. Leveraging his extensive sales background, David shares insights on efex's journey, the evolving landscape of sales, how to manage organizational shifts post an acquisition, effective sales leadership, as well as strategies for motivating sales teams to achieve success. If sales is in your realm, you're in for a treat. So let's get into it. David, welcome to MSPland. How are you going today?
Good, mate. Good. Thank you for having me, inviting me along, seeing the office. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So, look, just to begin with, give us a bit of an introduction to yourself, your background, how you first got into MSPland, then also how you ended up at efex currently.
Sure. A bit of a trip down memory lane, which is good. So I'm the head of sales for efex. I look after our customer-facing teams, so the sales group, our pre-sales team, customer success teams, and some of our other over-the-phone inside sales teams as well.
Cool.
I started, basically my career came into telco. Originally I was in a retail store selling, iPhones and Blackberries back then, if you can remember those.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a really great stepping stone for me into technology, something that I knew was growing and expanding, and I had a pretty keen interest to it back then as well. From then, over the years, I sort of progressed into working through Telstra stores and business centres to where I was leading some teams across northeast Victoria, and really just started to enjoy, I think, the business-to-business nature of, technology and telco back then. Telstra was really trying to emerge into different product sets and start to grow kind of their market share and share of wallet, which was interesting to me. But it was that deeper conversation and that kind of helping businesses through technology that really struck me. But I also found it quite limited. Telco can only do so much from that perspective. And when you tie that into some other products through, MSPland now, you can really put together a great story to help businesses. So from then I transitioned into a very small local MSP, which was a bit of a culture shock.
I can imagine, yeah.
Telstra's quite, they've got a lot of policies and a lot of procedures and a lot of structure. And I sort of went into, we don't have a policy. We don't have a procedure. We don't have a structure. Go and write one. Go and figure it out. And I actually enjoyed that a lot more than I realised. And through that, I was able to progress my career into running some small teams there. And I later moved on from that business, but eventually efex actually acquired that small MSP and they're an acquisition growth strategy, which I've had from day one. And through some, close personal connections with efex, an opportunity arose to come back into the business. I say back into the new efex world, but with a lot of my old friends across the state. And so I stepped back into a role initially doing inside sales effectively, looking after some guys that were trying to make some phone calls through COVID to try and help, one, retain customers and two, continue to grow technology through that time. And so, I've been here for just over 3 years now.
Cool, good stuff.
It's been really exciting.
All right, a lot to unpack there. I think to begin with, I wanted to ask, you sort of started your career in the sort of telco space and then kind of eventually moved into managed services. Like, how did you see things transition during that time? I mean, you mentioned you were selling Blackberries back in the day, and compared to what you might be distributing through efex now on the telco side, like how has that sort of transitioned? What's the sort of key differences you're seeing?
No more Blackberries, unfortunately. I did love that. For me, look, I think the biggest change or the biggest shift that we've really seen is that it's just around two things. One is integration and two is reporting. I think initially telco, as many of the products and solutions that we sell, they were quite siloed and they didn't really have any links to anything else. If I was to talk about a phone solution, that's all we'd have a conversation about and we'd step out the door and that would be it. Whereas today, we know that everything is connected, we know that everything is integrated and everything tells a story or a piece of the puzzle to that business. So I think understanding really what customers want out of their business and what direction they're going in, and then tailoring not just that piece of technology or that solution that you're selling, but understanding how that fits into the ecosystem. So that's probably the biggest shift that we've seen. And fundamentally, I think reporting, like a lot of businesses today really want to understand what is happening in their business. And we've had some challenges through COVID with work from home, remote working. I think we're seeing some trends and some shifts in that at the moment, but visibility of what is actually happening on the ground is so critical. And we're really seeing that across all of our solutions and product sets.
Yeah.
You know, we get it. You're supporting us. You're looking after it. You're providing that. Now you need to provide the evidence that it's working, it's not working. What is the data actually telling us, and how do we utilize that data for business improvement? That's probably the biggest driver that we're seeing at the minute, and I think it'll continue to grow as well.
For sure, and like, I mean, we see the same thing all the time, and just being able to kind of have your finger on the pulse of your business is so important. So having that advanced reporting analytics at your fingertips is so important. And I think a lot of businesses, they sort of think when it comes to a lot of these features, it's reserved for those enterprise businesses, top of the town sort of functionality. But now with different SaaS features and products, you can get your hands into that sort of analytics very affordably and very easily, and to provide a lot of added value.
It's so feature rich. And I think, you know, back to your point, it wasn't enterprise only solution, and it was, okay, we now have multi-site, multi-offices. Now even small businesses will have that. You know, I was talking to somebody quite recently. They're a small mechanic firm. They've got, you know, half a dozen people on site, but their accountant who does a lot of the day-to-day work there lives in another state. So getting that visibility and being able to connect those two people, and I just think that was unheard of, 5 years ago. You would say,
exactly right.
Why would you get an accountant out of state, mate? That just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah. And I think even when you see customer service teams, call centers, they're spread out all over the place. They're not just centralized in a single office. I think especially with the war for talent, you know, you're kind of picking up new headcount wherever you can find the best talent. And if you don't have the communication systems underpinning all of that to be able to work effectively together, you're just going to fall over.
It's critical, you know, for us, even the way that we operate our business, we're across, you know, circa 20 sites across the East Coast. And the biggest challenge that we have is you can't, you know, lean over the desk and say, you know, where's Jono today? Or, you know, where's Steve? Right. So being connected is more important than ever. And I think the trend where people are working out of offices, in coffee shops, at home, in the park. You know, I had a call recently with one of my guys, and I said, "Mate, where are you?" He goes, "I'm actually in the park." I went, "Oh, okay, fantastic. Hope you're having a great day out there."
Yeah. No, that's great. So, how have things changed in terms of how you sell these products? So back in the day, again, when you're selling those initial telco products, to how you're sort of selling it now. You sort of mentioned in your career itself, you sort of transitioned from probably being more retail focused to being more B2B focused. Sure. How have you sort of shifted yourself in terms of how you position and sell these products?
Definitely. I think, you know, going back to my very early career, it was, you know, very feature and benefit driven. You've got an iPhone. Here's an iPhone. We sell iPhones. Have a great day. And now it's a much different conversation. But I think the buyer, particularly in the B2B space, they're more educated than ever. You know, typically they don't come to you as cold now. They've done some research, whether that be, you know, online, or whether that be through some of their own personal networks, or they're just reviewing industry trends. They have some sort of idea of what they want to do. They don't know how, and they don't know kind of what the limitations are, but they do know where they want to get to in some way. So I think it's about, one, understanding that customers now are more intelligent than ever, and you actually really need to take on board their direction before you shape any solution. A lot of people go in there with, well, you have to do it this way, or you must do it that way. Flexibility is key in that space. And I think the other thing, you know, customers also don't really love to be sold to like they traditionally did. I think being called a salesperson has had a different connotation over the years. I'm really proud of it, but some people not so much. For me, I think they need to feel like it's a conversation. They need to feel like you are there to help them rather than to sell to them. And they need to feel like you are doing that in a way that will help their goals, their business, their future. And so a lot of times the traditional sales cycle, which would be quite scripted and you would be able to follow a 5-step process, it's a little bit different now. And I think at the core of that is really understanding the customer and just having an honest conversation with them. It will go a long way rather than pushing, you know, a sales structure down their throat and a product.
Yeah, that's it. And look, I think in the B2B world especially, right, you're not selling shoes, right? If you're selling a managed service, it's normally a significant contract with multiple different solutions tied into it, right?
Correct, absolutely.
Customers are being sold a solution, right? They want to feel like you're providing a consultative service to them, because at the end of the day, you know, on an IT managed service contract, you're effectively enabling their business to grow, right? And
Definitely.
that's what they want to see.
And it's a huge responsibility now. I think going back a few years ago, having a help desk solution and just having that phone a friend and somebody you can call if you need was good enough. And today, clearly that's not. Cybersecurity is underpinned so much of the way that we operate our business and our business model going forward. It is critical that, at one, our customers are educated through that process, and two, that you have the right systems and processes in place to be able to deliver those cybersecurity solutions. So I think, you're absolutely right. There's been a big shift in that space, and when you are selling all of these solutions that fit into each other and tie in together, it's really important that the delivery of those is right. And back to my earlier point, the reporting's there as well. You know, we're trying to provide you 5 or 10 different line items on one bill. Are they working? Are they not? Are they active? When was the last time we had an incident?
Yeah, exactly right.
Getting that data is critical.
Yeah, cool. So tell me a bit more about efex, and I guess what you're selling the most right now, because efex came from traditionally a managed print background. It's sort of grown up now into this massive national business, which is providing a whole range of managed services. What are you sort of, and I guess more so your team, what are they sort of selling the most right now? What's sort of front of mind in the market for them?
Well, we've always been a print business first and foremost, and that was really how it grew and started. Early on, Nick, our CEO and founder, he knew that people will eventually stop printing. Bits of paper are going to stop coming out. Whether it's today or 10 years' time, we still think it's a while away, right? So we still do a lot of print devices and a lot of managed print services across the business. It probably does about 40% of our transactions at the moment. However, the bulk of what we're really providing to our clients is sitting around that managed service space. And it's also around our cybersecurity products, as well as the M365 stack. So we're doing a lot within the Microsoft Business Premium license. That's our preferred go-to for the security features and benefits that you get there. And then we've created a couple of off-the-shelf cybersecurity products that align to the ACSC, the Essential 8. So for us, it's really about trying to lift that standard across our client base, get all of them to a very low level to start with, and then continue their cybersecurity journey. The number one focus for our sales group is definitely that cybersecurity, and then definitely that managed services space, and clearly a little bit of access for here and there, mate.
Bit of voice here.
Voice solutions, it's been key for us. I think having such an enormous client base that we have, they've typically had one line of service that would be print. And so we need to start that journey of transitioning them from print into managed services. But often it actually starts with voice, because voice and data, it's a really simple transition. It's quite a transactional piece in their mind. Whereas managed services, there's generally multiple stakeholders. It's a much longer sales cycle, because people want to feel confident. So typically they're running for weeks to months. Whereas when it comes to a voice and data solution, they kind of know that they can change. They know that we'll deliver a great solution. And we deliver that many that we do it really seamlessly. It's a great experience. We have project managers assigned to that whole process. So it works really well.
But I think as well, right, with voice and data, businesses, everyone has a phone on the desk in front of them, or everyone's on MS Teams on the phone, right? And everyone needs internet to power that, right? It's a simple thing to sort of say out loud, right? But it's so necessary for any business. So, and especially with a lot of our other partners, we sort of see sometimes you can use that sort of voice and data piece to get your foot in the door to then expand to a wider managed service contract down the line.
Well, for us, voice and data has always been one of our strong suits when it comes to delivery. And often we're actually replacing the network as we go. And when you get access to that network, really you start doing some minor changes and you start doing end user support. So you're right, it is definitely the gateway drug into a managed service agreement. But for us, it's just something we can deliver quickly. We know it works. We also know, because we're dealing with such a great company in Access 4, we don't have to manage a whole lot. Once we deploy them, they work. Probably the biggest challenges we face are actually within routers and devices that have configuration issues rather than your core networks. So when we look at scale and at growth, we want to touch less stuff that's out there. We want to manage less stuff, and that's where this kind of makes perfect sense for us. And then when we get in there and we go, look, we've noticed the way that you had your network set up wasn't quite optimized. What is your strategy to make sure you have network performance? What is your strategy around cybersecurity? Because there's a couple of red flags when we implemented some of these things, like your password was password 123.
Yep. But that's it. And I think part of it just comes back to knowing your customer, right? And the more you can get in there and the more you position yourself, as providing a solution, the more they're going to listen and the more they're going to hear you out. So.
Correct. And I think one of the challenges that you face when you're trying to do too much at one time is that people can get paralysis by analysis. They don't want to move forward.
Yeah.
It becomes too challenging. So to take that into bite-sized chunks that they can understand, like the telco, like the voice and data, and you deploy that really well, it kind of makes that next stage, that next piece of the pie much easier for them to swallow.
Yeah, good stuff. So efex has grown a lot simply by acquisition.
Sure.
I'm wondering when efex acquires another business, from a sales perspective, how are you then looking at that new, I guess, end user base that you're pulling in?
Yeah.
Is that I mean, do you have a different approach to, I guess, cross-selling or upselling that base?
Totally. It's early days in acquisitions, probably the biggest challenge is change management. And anyone that's been doing any version of M&A can attest to that.
Oh, yeah.
It's culturally is probably the first piece. You need to make sure that the stakeholders internally at that acquisition feel like they're part of something, feel like they're heading in a direction, that they have a purpose. And often the first comments that they'll have is that, okay, so we're getting made redundant, or when's the restructure happening, right?
Everyone starts getting worried.
Correct. So it's about, one, settling down that group and making sure that they feel part of the efex family. We've done this many times now, and that's the number one challenge. Once you have the people on board, they'll often get customers into a much better position. So that's the first thing. The second thing is about retaining that experience. So typically when you're taking on an MSP and some of those smaller MSPs, they're really local, close personal relationships. So they have a view often that there's this big giant coming in efex, and that it's very impersonal and you won't be able to reach anyone. So it's about, one, making sure that the customers are acutely aware that we're going to keep that same experience, but just enhance the things that they can get from us. And then from a product perspective, we really then start to review the MSP or the MSA, the managed service agreements. That's the first thing. We want to make sure those clients are, one, on some form of an agreement, two, that they're in a contract of some period of time that allows us to embed some other products and show some value. And then the next thing is looking at sort of our 8 product categories or silos that we've broken the business into, and going, okay, how many product categories does this customer have, and how do we start to grow those lines of service? So again, voice and data for us is absolutely paramount to getting that across. A lot of smaller MSPs don't do a lot of direct sales when it comes to data services or even voice services. They're typically hardware providers. They might have sold phone systems. They might have sold networks, but they didn't have a lot of recurring annuity. So for us, that's low-hanging fruit that we can pick up quickly. And then, in addition to that, it's just aligning that stack back to what we do. So often, they might have a different backup product, or they might have, a different mail hosting service, or they might have, a different Microsoft lens in terms of the licenses they use. Aligning that to our product stack and our standard, one, it creates a better customer experience because our engineers know what they're looking at. It's a continual, repeatable process.
Much easier to manage.
Way easier to manage. And then if there's an issue that we need to change, we can do that at scale quite easily, whether we run a script or, we put some effort in there. So for us, it's aligning that stack kind of is the next piece and getting them on the efex, bus, if you will.
No, that's good. So how was your team structured? I mean, I know you mentioned there's a few different key teams that you're managing right now. I'd love to deep dive a bit into the actual structure of your sales organization.
Sure.
Who are your direct reports? How is that all broken up? Just to get a bit of an insight about how to run, a successful team.
Definitely. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of years, really trying to flatten out our structure. We initially sort of had a state-based structure where we had branch managers that would typically have 1 or 2 salespeople reporting into them, and then from there they report into a state manager which reported to the executive team. The challenge that we had is, and a lot of good businesses do this, we put our best salespeople into leadership positions. And we say, hey, you know what you're really good at? Selling to customers.
Yeah.
Stop doing that and teach other people how to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, salespeople aren't the best administrators.
Oh, that's such a typical story, right? It's like you never take your best salesperson off the field and put them into management.
Correct. It would work 1 out of 100 times. And so for us, over time, we looked at the structure and we went, okay, some of our best people are doing less customer meetings per week now. That's not ideal for us. And additionally, we've been very lucky. We've got some pretty good tenure across the group. We don't lose many people at all, which has been really positive for us. So we flattened the structure. At the moment, we have a direct reporting line to all of our sales group into me at the moment.
Okay.
So there is no layers of management. And it's probably only been able to happen that way just due to the seniority of some of our guys, to the way that the business is operated. We're very transparent. We're a very tight-knit sales group, which I'm very fortunate to be a part of. And from a management perspective, we have quite few issues compared to an organisation of our size, I think. So it's been really good.
So how do you structure the difference between, let's say, an account management team versus someone who might be focusing on new customer acquisition, or do you make that differentiation?
Look, we don't in the respect of, I firmly believe that if you are selling to clients that you can account manage to clients. I think it's the same experience. So we traditionally did have that break between the two. We had an account management team and we had a sales team. And again, you get this friction across the group because typically one team is remunerated at a far greater level when they're acquiring new business and retention is at a lower level. So it created these real issues for us of people offloading work and dumping work and it just not being an effective structure. So we flattened it to an account management and new business generation structure for everyone across the board.
Okay, so it's just blended account managers who both focus on acquisition and also retention expansion.
Exactly right. And we look at our organic acquisition strategy comes in a couple of ways. Referrals, I think, are our biggest friend, and I talk about it a lot. I think every business does, and every good sales leader will. We still don't execute on that enough, and I think that's something that I'll continue to drive across the group. Because it's such an easy win. Hey, we've done a great job for you. And also looking a little bit wider than, is there someone else in business? But who's your suppliers? Who's your vendors? I want to talk to them because, they'll talk to us if you refer us in.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's been big for us. I think the other thing that we're doing is we're also looking at some of the regions that we're in. We do a lot from outbound marketing perspective. Our marketing team's very active out there. We get a lot of inbound inquiry from our website, which has been really successful over the last 6 months through just organic growth, but also SEO and some of those other elements. And we've partnered with some lead generation companies over the years as well, which has been highly effective for us. I just think that if you can get into more client conversations that are in a sales cycle, you'll be more effective.
So for your sales rep then, how much time do you think they would focus on speaking with prospective customers versus dealing with existing customers in their patch?
I should say not enough, right? But I think it's probably the 80-20 rule would be pretty close to it. I think it's a lot of the existing base and
so 80 is existing base.
Existing base, and I think 20% would be on that new business acquisition. It's twofold. One, it can be challenging out there going in, knocking doors and sending emails all day long. So naturally, I think salespeople will go back into their shell onto the easier path of talking to existing clients. But equally, we have so much opportunity and upside within the existing customer base. If we can just align them to our 8 product categories and silos, if we can get them to 5, 6, 7 of those, then I'll be on a beach somewhere and probably not here with you, mate.
But like that makes sense, as in considering FX's growth story, which is really driven by acquisition. You're going to be seeing so much white space within your existing base, right? And look, everyone knows that it's much easier to be cross-selling, upselling your existing base than going to go find new logos. Both in terms of speed, efficiency, cost, everything, right? So that 80-20 split makes perfect sense to me. I'm wondering how your marketing team then loops in with the sales team. So you said their marketing team does quite a bit of outbound. You get some leads through your website. How is that sort of journey managed internally in the handoff between marketing and sales?
It's been something that we've really tried to bring a bit of structure to over the last couple of years. And for us, we typically we had no inbound traffic at all. It was something that was marketing was a bit of a dead space in the budget, and we just had to have it there, right? And brand recognition and awareness in some of the regions that we operate in was quite low.
Okay.
So I think it's been a few things. Number one, we've split the team into two from our marketing perspective. One effectively focused on new business acquisition. So how do we get our brand out there to more people? And I'll actually talk to some of the events that we ran last week, which is pretty exciting over in Adelaide. But two, then looking at how do we then educate our client base on the products that we offer? And this has been the number one thing. I still talk to clients today that go, oh, I didn't know that you did managed services. Oh, I didn't know that you did voice. And when our identity is now wrapped into being an MSP and we're no longer a print business, that's something that has taken and will continue to take time to change that mentality.
Yeah, I see this amongst other partners as well that I speak with all the time, right? Just the pure amount of white space that exists, or the fact that they have customers that might have been with them for a long time, just focused on servicing them with one service or one product line, and they're not even aware that they also do voice, also do data, and also do XYZ, right? And just having those conversations, or from a marketing perspective, just making sure that you're regularly engaging with them, putting out the different thought leadership, or just simply informing them about the different services that you're pushing out there. It's such low-hanging fruit.
Correct.
I think people just need to be more cognizant.
And it's really interesting, right? I'm very fortunate. One of the things that I really love doing is I love being client-facing. I get a real kick out of that process, and when you start to lead teams over time, you can step out of it, and I think you lose your touch when you're not there. So for me, I really make sure that that's something I make available to my team. And getting in those meetings, one of the things that I bring up, we've got this beautiful piece on our website that shows all of our product categories, and they always say, "Oh, I didn't realize you did that," and that for me is something that I get a bit of a kick out, because I go, "What is the white space? What is the opportunity that we're missing by not having that there?" It's for us growing that through some of that thought leadership that you were talking to is really critical. So we do a lot in the blog post space, talking about what the product is, what it does, but also what are some of the case studies? What are some of the wins that we've had with our clients? We're very fortunate to have a couple of pretty high profile clients that we deal with, and we sponsor and look after some AFL clubs and some pretty impressive NRL clubs as well. So for us, getting them talking about that story and how it's helped them has been really important, and then just getting that out there into our clients' hands without overloading them, though, right? We know, again, sending emails all day, every day is not a fun thing. But, and like you, mate, I reckon we get probably 200 or 300 a day, and we read about 20. So making sure that they're high value, that they are something that the clients will actually want to consume and will tell a story. Through that, we've had a lot of inbound traffic off the back of it, and we measure that through some of our e-forms on the website. And that just tells us, what are the things that clients are coming back to us. And to be honest, our two highest categories is one, print, but two, it's voice.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's good. I'm wondering more from a toolset perspective. What does your sales team rely on to manage all their customers, prospective customers, in terms of the CRM or other systems that they use? I'm assuming, especially if you're talking a lot about inbound website traffic, you're probably set up on some of the bigger CRMs, lots of automation behind it. I'd love to go into that a bit more.
Yeah. We have spent quite a lot of time and effort into our CRM, and one of the challenges through an acquisition strategy is that you pick up all of this other
so
tech,
painful,
right?
From experience.
Yeah.
Different CRMs trying to stitch together the different data and everything.
And it never lines up, does it? Right? Oh, hey, we kind of don't use a CRM in the way it's designed. We kind of use this field over here, which is not for that. And you're
exactly right.
How can I import 10,000 records in a field that doesn't make sense, right? So for us, it's about how do we clean up that data? We do have a data analytics and business transformation team that just focuses on our integrations, our systems. We utilize Salesforce for our front end at the moment. But one of the challenges we at the moment we utilize ConnectWise for our service delivery teams. So having that fragmented approach has been really challenging. We know that not all data that gets put into one gets put into the other. often somebody in service has half the story because the salesperson has the whole story, and that's in a different system. We're currently undertaking one of the largest integration projects that we'll ever do, and we're going to one platform.
Okay.
So we are moving to Salesforce.
Yep.
Which is really, really exciting. We are going to be one of the first MSPs in the country to do this.
Okay.
We know there's a firm out of Canada that's recently done the same thing.
Yep.
So we've been in contact with them and had some great conversations. It's a full-time project for one of our guys at the minute, and I reckon he's aged 10 years and 6 months. But
Salesforce is an absolute beast. I mean, we use Salesforce as well, and from previous experience as well, it can be such a monowith, like to the point where you literally need multiple headcounts just to manage it.
100%. And unfortunately, our head of business transformation is currently basically our sysadmin on that one, and he's doing the best. But we'll move to Salesforce next month, and that's really exciting to have all data in one location. We're able to help then, I guess, simplify and streamline a lot of processes. We've built a lot of workflow and automation within that platform. So Pardo is the back-end platform that we utilize to nurture some of our clients when it comes from a marketing perspective.
Yep.
And that's really great because you get good, useful data.
Yes.
We also, we've spent a lot of effort and a lot of money to make that our quoting platform. So we utilize CPQ, which is a customized price quote tool within Salesforce.
Okay.
And you can build out any of our solutions from there. It will then automatically generate quotes, contracts, agreements, which then DocuSign directly to the end user.
Yeah, okay.
We're able to see open rates, times, track IP addresses where they're going to.
Yep.
So for us, it's been a hugely valuable tool. And like a lot of, MSPs up until recent years, we were using spreadsheets,
Oh, for sure. And like, I think people just don't realize how complex that whole transformation process can be, but the benefits are just exponential.
Correct.
Right? Like having everyone in the same platform, looking at the same data, the same records, and then having all these added value tools off the back of it, it just helps you scale as a business, move faster, be more efficient. There's just so many gains to get from it, as long as you do it correctly.
Correct. That's right. You've got to do the work up front, right? And I think this is the thing that we've realized, like you can't take any shortcuts to get something out there. For the ability to have everything in one platform, what we're also able to then layer over AI, which is pretty topical at the minute. And we start to understand trends for our clients. Okay, great. We've got 11,000 active SKUs within our quoting platform at the moment from a technology perspective. If a customer buys this one, this one, and this one, it'll pop up and tell you, hey, typically they also buy this 75% of the time. Why don't you offer that? So we're able to then start utilizing that to then help get some value add. And we're also over time able to get some trends through ticket data to understand, okay, great, we're seeing a recurring type of ticket across different organizations for the same thing. And we're able to then create, a standard operating procedure, or we're able to then create some prompts for our service delivery team to understand how do I resolve that. So it will be, it's a word, but it will be transformational for us. And it's very, very exciting. I think it's been a lot of years in the making, and to bring it together next month is huge.
Yeah, but I think what you just spoke about like that's a very practical use of AI, right?
Correct.
Like, a lot of people so focus on ChatGPT or this or that, or AI image generation or whatever it might be, but what you just spoke about is something that's just going to instantly provide value to their customers, to your customers, right? And enable you like way more revenue opportunities as well.
Correct. And I think it's also going to be able to give us better reporting to understand what is the opportunity set. We currently have contract data which is stored within our billing platform. We have our front end from Salesforce. We have our back end from ConnectWise. We also it's so fragmented that getting those three systems to line up has always been an issue. And one system might say that this has a contract date of X. This one says Y. And then now I've got people calling our billing department. Our billing department is pulling up records that are stored in a SharePoint site, which we no longer use. And that's been grandfathered. And so if you think about one, the opportunity that we'll get just by knowing that the data is accurate, but two, the amount of time that people are on the phone to each other trying to figure something out, I think we're going to get a significant increase on that as well.
But also when you're acquiring new businesses in the future, then it's just, okay, whatever your system, your data, whatever is, you have to mix it up and do all the proper structuring, because we now have this one single platform you need to be able to plug into, and it's not touching this system until you've cleaned it up.
Correct. And from an integration perspective, we have the standard, and we never really had that. I think before, when we'd make an acquisition, they might be utilizing a different brand of firewall. And so, okay, well, hold on. Are we going to use that one, or do we stay with this one? And we start to have these conversations, which eventually created a bit of challenges because, technologists can be quite passionate about what brands they use. And so now that we have the standard, we know exactly what will happen, how it will happen, how that data needs to be fed in, what the process is when they'll go and see a new client, or how do they convert an existing one. It makes life so much easier for us.
Yeah, cool. I'd like to touch a bit on lead generation. Something you mentioned before was that you guys have used some lead generation companies in the past. I know, speaking with a bunch of partners, some have used them successfully in the past. Some of them have been unsuccessfully. Some are just teeing up new engagements. I'm wondering what your sort of experience was like. Was it successful? Like, how to get the most out of those sorts of support agencies?
Definitely. Look, like all lead generation companies, it can be a bit of a mixed bag. We're currently in the process of reviewing some for some trickier regions. Operating in so many zones, it just makes it challenging because you can't have that one size fits all approach. And one lead generation company might be perfect for metro, but not so great for regional, and vice versa. Look, it's been really successful for us probably over the last 12 months in particular, but that's really been driven out of one or two key contributors who have driven that. I think if you don't have the right person or people sitting behind that from your internal structure, it's set to fail. So they have to believe in it. That's the first thing. And two, salespeople are pretty coin operated, right? So you have to remunerate them in line with making it worth their while, because we know if we're going into active, markets where there are people getting multiple quotes from multiple vendors, that your strike rate is lower.
Yeah, it's very competitive.
Very competitive, particularly from a metro perspective. So you have to be able to provide them the latitude to create their own pricing structures, the standard off the shelf, and standard delivery time frames. All of that kind of goes out the window. My perspective is let's win every deal, and we'll make that profitable over time by getting them transitioned to other products. So giving them the latitude on pricing and delivery has been key, incentivizing them to make it worth their while. So when they quote 8 times and they win twice, they're still in a good spot overall, rather than looking at just farming the existing base. That's been really, really big for us. And two, it's just making sure that you have to get out there quickly. Clients that are out there looking at putting a website inquiry or getting a call, they're doing their research, as I said earlier. So if that comes in at 11 o'clock and you don't call them to 4, you've kind of wasted your money there.
Look, and I think we all know the best leads that you want to be engaging with right away are the ones who put their hand up and say, hi, I want to have a chat. I want to have a demo. Let's have a conversation. Because as you said, they've done their research. They've been all over your website. They've probably received a bunch of your communications, and they know what they sort of expect going into it. And it's a much easier close versus like a cold outbound.
Exactly.
Lead, right.
Exactly. And I think the other thing that's been really surprising, through COVID, we had, this remote work and this, don't come to my office. I don't want to see you. And that hung around for quite a while. Now it's quite the opposite. So our success rates are really driven up by getting face-to-face, by making sure that we drive out there. Oh, it's 40 minutes from the office. Guess what, guys? We're going 40 minutes. Jump in the car. So that's been really key for, I guess, getting them on board. And we've found that a lot of our competitors don't do it. And so when you are in that competitive space and you're up against 3 or 4, but you've driven out there.
Instead of just a Teams meeting.
You've met the receptionist, you bought them a coffee or whatever you've done just to make them feel special. Then they generally give us a better shot.
It's almost come around back in a loop, right? Like door-to-door sales, or just in-face sales calls was so common before COVID, and then it kind of transitioned the complete opposite way. No one wanted to see anyone in person, but now people just want that direct interaction.
Correct. And look, we're seeing it through the work from home changes that we have at work now. Like, initially it was, you have the freedom, you can work from home whenever you want. It's actually encouraged. And we, like a lot of organizations, want people back in the office. And, coming in today, looking around, I was actually quite interested to see
how many people were in the office.
Correct. And I'll be interested to actually ask you, what's the Access 4 stance on work from home, and how does Tim, talk about that with the group? But yeah, for us, it's about getting people back to the office and you just collaborate better. You have better outcomes. I think you get that real cultural piece that you can't get that over Teams. It doesn't work.
It's more difficult, right? Yeah, like we follow a hybrid working model. So people typically have 2 or 3 days in the office. And really trying to focus those days on being more collaborative because you know, you can get all your grunt work done when you're at home in front of the computer, focusing as you need to. But when you're in the office, you need to kind of focus on collaboration and culture as well. And we sort of try to put a lot of focus on that, especially when they're in the office, internal events, different celebrations, and so on. Because you can't get that as good as when you're remote. So,
definitely.
But at the same time, at least from my perspective, you know, there's definitely people out there who work the best from home. And work the best remote and don't get as much as coming in from the office. So there's definitely that balance to find there, and it's never an easy conversation or never an easy fix as well.
And it's that, you know, it's never that one size fits all, right? Like for us being in regional, we have, some branches that are very regional. We've got one up in Cairns, which is a beautiful branch up there, but there's only sort of 3 guys in it. So work from home's not really an option. Someone's got to open it. Someone's got to be there for deliveries. Someone's got to take the stock. So they don't really have that option. Whereas in some of our larger centres where we might have, 80 or 100 people in that centre, it's much more prevalent. So it is definitely dependent. I'm with you, mate. Like at home, I can get through 2 days worth of work in one. Because when I'm in the office, I just got a quick question for you. Okay, I'll go for coffee. You don't get that full work day in, really.
Cool. One of the last things I wanted to touch on, and you sort of mentioned it briefly before, was around sales, commission structure, and remuneration, if we can jump into it, because it's so important to get that right. And I'm sure, throughout your career, you would have seen different approaches, different ways to pull it together.
Definitely.
But especially coming from like a MSP type perspective where, there's a lot of recurring revenue, there's a lot of retention, it's a lot about expansion, even sometimes more so than just finding new logos. How do you sort of balance all that, especially when you have a blended account management team who are focusing on both sides of the coin?
Yeah, it's been challenging. Look, there's no question about it, and I think it's something that we'll continue to evolve our discussions on. Initially, there was separate structures. If you're in print, all you do is print, and if you're in tech, all you do is tech. And looking at some of those structures, it was weighted. If you were doing print devices that typically had a significantly higher margin, you're remunerated better. Yet our technologists, the guys that do the work and that have the standards and the accreditations, that they're getting remunerated, at scale a little bit less. And so for us, we broke it back down and we've broken our structure into 2 parts: our MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and that's exclusively focused on technology annuity. And then we've broken it into we call it financeable GP, or just a gross profit number. So whether you sell something, just outright, whether it might be a server or a printer, or it could be anything, or whether you put that onto a finance style agreement, which we do in-house, all of that becomes cash that we get up front, and you'll get a percentage on that. We have tiers based on performance. So some of our top tiers, guys can earn sort of that 35% of the number, which is pretty significant. Our best earners probably are averaging about $100,000 to $120,000 gross profit a month. So some of those guys are getting $30,000-$40,000 checks every month. Equally, like a lot of sales teams, there's a bit of a gap from first to last, and they might not be getting a check every month. So,
but that's part of the sales competition and drive, right? You want to look at the top earners and become one of them.
Correct. And we're very fortunate that we have some people that have been in the business for a long, long time and have been consistent high performers. They are the guiding light for our team. It does help lift the standard, which has been great. But the second part to our structure really sits around technology. It's really hard to get this bit right. Because there's often limited profit that you can make out of technology. It's a recurring stream. We know that salespeople like a sugar hit, and they like to get a little whack. If I sell something and we make $5 a month and I give you $1 a month forever, probably not going to change your life, right? So we need to structure that in a way that kind of makes sense. And what we've done is we've front loaded that as a business, and we've taken away the profitability element. So paying on profit's quite limited. Our goals much like your goals here at Access 4 are aligned to recurring revenue and growing that business over time. So we pay them on revenue. If it's a new line of service or new revenue, you'll get 1 month. So if you sign up something that is like $1,000 a month, even if our profit's $20 a month, we'll give you $1,000 up front.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you look at that over like a contract term period?
Correct.
Like
there's some caveats to it. We want to do a minimum contract term of 24 months.
Yep.
We want to make sure that the client doesn't leave during that period of time. And if they do, then
there's some clawback.
A little bit of clawback.
Because they're also acquiring them and also managing them post-sale as well, right?
Correct.
So,
that's right.
Yeah.
So they're heavily responsible for that customer retaining with us, but it gives them that what they really want, which is a nice big check up front.
Yep.
We talk about the $1,000, example. We've had somebody recently sign up a $55,000 a month client, and that's a pretty decent commission check that they'll get from that. A lot of work that goes into it. That's 2 years in the money making to get that deal, and a lot of management. But those are the sorts of behaviors that we want. We want people to be paid well. We want people to go out there and hunt new business because that's important to our brand.
Yep.
And so you have to reward them in that way.
Yep. So just to go back a bit, so the split between new business and existing business, expanding that, is it almost an even split in terms of how that's weighted, or?
Well, we're actually splitting it up now into that new business is going to be worth significantly more.
Okay.
So I have some announcements. Hopefully this doesn't come out tomorrow to my group, but we're actually going to increase the commission rate in the new business for all of them. So they'll get an extra 15% at scale if they're targeting new business rather than existing business. Again, driving that behavioral change, making sure that we are still out there in the forefront of cold calling and knocking doors and being active in the community. It's really, really important.
Yeah, cool. So that's a decision that sort of come down from the business to sort of say, hey, we've got a good base now. We're growing organically, we're expanding, we've got the sort of wheels in motion, but we also want to make sure that we're focusing on bringing new business in. So that's aligning.
Yeah. And look, it's cyclical, right? Like for us, we'll go through a period of change where we'll be looking at, okay, we've released a new product. One of our cybersecurity products that were released towards the end of or middle of last year was really exciting. So the drive for that 6 months was really pushing to get that product out into clients' hands. We've now sold thousands of seats of that cyber product, which has been hugely successful for us. And now the behaviour's there. That's something that gets offered to all of our clients. Our sales team are across it. Our delivery teams are across it. So we almost need to take that behaviour for granted and move on to the next priority base. And for us, funnily enough, voice and data is something that we've seen probably had a bit of a drop-off in the last 6 months. And we've just released a new incentive structure on that that's going out tomorrow as well. So we'll pay 2 times the month for voice services to really incentivize our group to get out there and push that.
Okay, so they get the 2 months.
2 months.
1 month.
Yeah. Again, great gateway drug for us to get into everything else. And new business will be weighted much more heavily as well. So those are exciting changes. And that's probably one of the reasons I'm really proud to work with this business and work with Nick. And he gets and understands the sales mentality. He gets customers and he knows what he has to do to move the needle. So being agile has been really key to our success.
Yeah, cool. Look, the last thing I wanted to wrap up with, I guess, is how you manage your sales team, or I guess like the pitfalls to avoid, right?
Yeah.
Because, if it's a big part of a salesperson's sort of happiness is their commission structure, right?
Totally.
Making sure it's achievable, but also kind of pushes them at the same time. Like, where have you seen sales management fail, right? Because, you can get some big personalities, you can get very driven personalities as well.
Yeah.
How do you sort of manage it? Do you have any experience where it hasn't gone right and you had to sort of change tact?
Totally. Look, one of the things when you're managing such a large team like I have is that there are, 40 or 50 different personality profiles, and each of them like to be dealt with in a slightly different way, which is part of the fun. Yes, we've had, if I think culturally, we've had a couple of people that we've hired recently. Interviews for me, they only go so far. It's when you get somebody in the role that you really find out who they are and what they're like. And often we've had people come in, they've started really well, but you find out sort of through that first couple of months that they're not treating everyone in the way that we would want, our brand to be treated. So we just move quickly. I think hire fast, fire fast is something we talk about a lot.
Yep.
We had somebody that started recently, and he lasted 3 days, and we decided that it wasn't right. And a lot of other places, I think, would stick with it. Oh, we'll just see if it works out.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. I think that's a mistake. You want to fail fast, right? Because that's where you learn the most. And moving fast on talent, but also moving fast on moving them on if it doesn't fit is so important, because especially if the culture fit isn't right, they can act as, it's almost just like this blocker in the wider business, right? That can drag things down.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing that we've noticed is that when we get rid of some of these people that aren't right for the business, and they could be great people, but they're not right for us, the feedback from the team has been overwhelmingly positive. And I think that standard, and setting that standard on how we operate, they really respect and appreciate it. And they will then lift their own game to make sure that they're upholding that standard as well. Results are critical, and we're a sales business, and we'll always be a sales business. But if you have that one bad egg, if you have that person that is hurting the rest of the team culturally, even if they're your best performer, I'd say get rid of them, because you'll find out how much other people around them will lift when they're gone.
And the breath of fresh air people take as soon as they've left the building.
We had somebody recently who was quite aggressive to some of our other teams, and we found out and moved them on. And some of the messages coming in saying, hey, just want to say thank you for supporting me in my role and looking after me. I'm not sure that would happen everywhere. So, we're really proud of having that culture. And I think back to your original question of, how do you manage and how do you deal with different things, and what happens when it goes wrong? When we broke down some of these structures, we really did take a one-size-fits-all approach, and we tried to go out there and sort of communicate and treat everyone the same. We just don't have that ability. We've got some people that really are quite high touch. I would speak to 4 or 5 times a day. And I've got others that really just want to be left alone in terms of, give me the targets, give me the KPIs, give me the tools and support and resources. I'll go and do a great job, but don't call me 5 times a day and check up on me. And so I think it's understanding that who likes to be, communicated to and likes that pat on the back, and who just needs that laneway open so they can go out there and be effective.
Some people, they only want to hear from you when you're delivering that commissions check.
Correct. That's right.
That's all they're driven by.
The third week of the month is usually pretty popular, so they're pretty happy.
Good stuff. Look, I think we can wrap it up there. Like, I had a great time today. We covered some really amazing topics. For anyone listening who wants to get in touch with you or have another follow-up chat, how
happy to reach out. LinkedIn, probably the best place to find me. Send me a message. Very happy to have a chat, have a coffee, sit down with anyone. So, mate, not a problem at all. Thanks for having me. It's I really enjoyed it, actually, and really big support of you guys. So we're grateful to be here.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, thanks a lot. You have a good day. We'll talk again soon.
You too. Thanks, Nick.